the logical state of discussing rationally as how India should move through revolutionary policy called national education policy. Friends, as I mentioned earlier, the first education policy, which was national education policy, which was commissioned in 1966, again revamped in 1886 and revised in 1992, and then after 34 years, that societal changes within and at the global level, India took a strong move, constituting a committee under the chairmanship of Dr. Kasturi Rangan, along with other members, 4 or 5 members. They worked out in such a way, taking native as well as the global situation into account, and prepared a comprehensive policy where that a drastic change is suggested, keeping that the constitutional spirit in mind, so that founding 5
Excuse me,
pillars.
sir.
Hello?
Sir, your presentation is not seen. Can you select the PowerPoint?
It is there, no?
I think you're on Zoom app, sir. Can you move to the PowerPoint? Maybe you're sharing the entire screen. So you have to click on the PowerPoint so that we can also see the screen.
No, you are not seeing the scene.
PowerPoint we can't see, sir. Right now you're on Zoom app, so you have to select the PowerPoint.
Screen sharing is not being done, sir.
Oh, che. What happened? Screen share ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. Oh.
ಸರ್ ಮೊದಲು ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಆದಾಗ ಕಾಣ್ತಿತ್ತು ಸರ್.
ಹಾ.
ನೀವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ PPT ಶೋ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಅಯ್ಯೋ. ಶೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಇದು?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಇದು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ.
Sir, you have to go to the PowerPoint. If you're already sharing the screen, just click on the PowerPoint.
PowerPoint ಇದೆಲ್ಲ PP ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಪ್ರೀತಮ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ. No? ಇದು.
Or maybe you have to share the screen again.
See? Now?
Got it, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Oh, what is this nonsense? What happened to this? Oh.
Sir, try sharing the screen again once.
I'm doing.
Maybe you can exit once and come back, sir. That would be better.
ಅವರು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ನೀವು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ?
What happened? I don't understand. Who is? Correct. It was coming rightly.
ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಕವಿತಾ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
Oh my God.
Recording in progress.
ಸರ್ 2 ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಇದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ
ಮೇಡಮ್
ಸರ್.
ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ PPT ಬೇಡ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಹಾಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೇಳಿ, ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ.
What is this? I don't understand certain things.
ಸರ್
Now it is okay.
ಈಗ ಓಕೆ ಸರ್. ಸರ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಲಾಗೌಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್. ಸರ್ ಈಗ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
ಆಯ್ತಮ್ಮ?
ಹಾ ಸರ್, ಈಗ ಶೋ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಸರ್, ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
Okay. So, the comprehending that policy, taking that the constitutional spirit into account, including the people of all walks of life, it made cohesively 5 that the pillars. The pillar 1 is access. Access that, as you all know, that every person should get the ಏನು echo ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಎಕೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಯಾರೋ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇಳಿದೆ. So the access for every person, that objectives set for this is a gross enrollment ratio, what I mentioned 2-3 times, to achieve 100% by 2035 at primary level, and at higher level to 50%. The principles that they set was that education as a public service and a basic right. As you all know, it is mentioned very clearly in the Constitution that education is a right of every person. It shall be the duty of every government to give a quality and accessible education to all. And not just that giving that education, and they should give also that the effective infrastructure for safe learning environment, along with that multiple learning pathways. Multiple learning pathways here refers to formal education as well as the non-formal education. And then universal access to higher quality early childhood care and education. It is the main focus of that. And then strategy and the initiative should be from the government side as far as that the infrastructure is concerned, means upgrading all these things, and then open distance learning facilities, and then dropout prevention, and then strengthening all that the schools and colleges and higher education institutions, aspirational districts, SEZ, you all heard, special economic zones, that encourages international that campuses and special education zone accordingly, that allowing that the foreign universities to start in the Indian land. Accordingly, that the equity I mentioned again earlier slides, that learning for all, it is not for few. Realizing that to become strengthened, to become vibrant, it is the duty of every nation to include everyone. That is why UGC also started in all the universities that social exclusion and inclusive centers, just to that all categories of people inside. By giving earlier slides, I shown that how that the government that made provision for that the scholarships and other things. So similarly, that the quality, fostering that the holistic development. Quality, we have been talking right from that the afternoon, that what kind of this thing, that the quality refers to the high level that understanding through experiential and inspirational learning through. That it shall be the duty of the government that all this thing should be given to. Even that it is showing that problem. Slides are open? Hello?
ನೋ ಸರ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಸ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನಿಂಗ್ ನೀವು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಇವಾಗ.
ಸರ್ ಈಗ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗಿದೆ
ನೀವೇ
ಸರ್.
ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಸರ್.
ಏನಮ್ಮ?
ನಿಮ್ ವಾಯ್ಸು ಎಕೋ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ, PPT ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Now?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಹಾ, ಇವಾಗ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್.
ಮೊಬೈಲಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
ಸರ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಕಾಣ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. Okay. So the quality that should not be compromised at any cost, that it should be given to all in all these things. It is not that some people this thing that get that all these things. You know that in rural colleges and all these things, when pandemic that came into that they started that online teaching, and the people who are living in rural areas could not able to participate in this thing. Therefore, that only in India now, just not even that I think that 35% of the students get that the internet access. Only that 5 million people have access of all age groups, this thing. And then highest priority to fundamental literacy and numeracy. And then conceptual understanding over rote that memorization. That it is not that mugging up. That ex tempo, that this thing should be the main that aim of that the quality higher education. Outstanding research as consequence of outstanding education, it is the thing of that. And then comprehensive curriculum, art, craft, humanities, sports, values, and all these things. Holistic, inquiry driven, that learner centered pedagogy should be adopted. For this, the strategies that assessment reforms, that formative assessment, summative assessment, and then competency based assessment, holistic 360-degree progress card. We used to that talk in a management system, 360-degree appraisal system, but it is there in the university level also, that redesignated boards and then examinations And teachers education that integrated 4 years, higher education, multidisciplinary, academic bank of credit, national research foundations. These are the measures suggested for maintaining the quality education. Coming to the next one, affordability, accessible education for all. You have that the good experience. How much that a fee you are paying for your children, even for elementary school, that you are paying a lot of money in terms of lakhs. Even that our lifetime that we have not spent even 1 year fee of that our grandchildren. Such a kind of situation is there. But what that government that through that education policy is suggesting is that the fee and other that this thing should be affordable to everyone. It is not that the high that economic strata that gets all that these things, but also that the lower web also. Therefore, that it is the responsibility of the state to maintain this affordability culture, this thing. And coming to the last pillar of that the policy is accountability. Accountability speaks of integrity and efficiency. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
So it is competitive economy and competent people. Therefore, that the NEP, that the policy that clearly that has given the the guideline as how that we should go about. And then if you look at that the guiding principles, it is the holistic and multidisciplinary education. No rigid separation between arts, science, curricular and extracurricular and co-curricular. Earlier we used to say curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular, NCC, NSS and all these things extracurricular. Now that under NEP, where that discipline specific, ability enhancement, skill enhancement, value added courses and multidisciplinary situation came into being, everything is one, everything is curricular. There is no separation. And STEAM came into being. Science, technology, arts, engineering and mathematics. Just you see, STEM, earlier it was there. I mentioned in the earlier this thing, STEM. Science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Now I am telling STEAM in this thing. Liberal arts is included. Arts students should learn science, commerce, they should learn education, all sorts of this thing. Multidisciplinary approach is the main that aspects of the aspirational aspects of that the national education policy. Conceptual understanding, emphasis, emphasizing the learning for understanding rather than memorization. As I mentioned, it is not that mugging up. So creative thinking capacity should be developed. It won't come just like that. What is to be done is that the situation should be such where that the students that develop a creativity, it is possible only through a knowledgeable teachers. Knowledgeable teachers who can able to that convert that theory classroom into a virtual lab classroom. It is not art, so it is not just that a theory class. I am teaching history, I am teaching sociology. How good you are in converting your theoretical classroom into a virtual lab. even that formation of group, how scientifically that you are going to form, talking that history, that heritage buildings, how you are converting that this thing into a virtual lab, bringing all such things. There are universities in India, even now, that who are fostering that the heritage building, fostering in Orissa and all these things. The last that month that I was in that NAC, that assessment, this thing, I saw a university that where that their main focus is on that maintaining, fostering that the heritage buildings, that experiential learning it gives altogether a different this thing. And then the ethical and constitutional values, sense of empathy. Empathy is not a small word, not a sympathy. Keeping your this thing in others' place and understanding and act accordingly. And respect, giving respect, and scientific temper. These are the good personalities, that the qualities. It won't come just like that. You have to have that certain what you call a quality life to understand all these things. And then teacher empowerment. You are all attending this program. This is a part of that the NEP spirit. It is not just that they conduct an examination and then they select based on your merit. No. Every now and then, it shall be the duty of the concerned that authority to give updated knowledge. Only that you can able to that deliver the goods, taking the societal changes into account. And then it is not that this thing that the working conditions for teachers, they have to maintain that a fair working conditions. It is not that a rigid this thing, doing all such other this thing, that free this thing. That is why that teacher's salary, UGC salary, is increased, doubled. Why? Because that the teacher should not face any problem. Their mind should be free. They should think analytically. They should invest that money, at least 10% of their salary, for the purchase of books, and then attending that seminars, conferences, all sorts of these things, that academic development. For that purpose that they have made that. And then the extensive use of technology, integration of technology in teaching, learning, and administration. Hello? Teaching, learning, and administration. Paperless office, now that they are suggesting. If I remember correctly, 2012-13, government of Karnataka started that technology introduction in the higher education. Actually, that they had a plan. We have prepared, I was part of that. We have prepared 83 domains, digital domains, right from that admission application down to that Vice Chancellor, that installing that GPS to Vice Chancellor's car. Such a kind of this thing, transparent this thing that we worked out and then given to all the universities. But unfortunately, all of them have gone into different this thing, and some universities followed to some extent, and some of them they have forgotten. And the like, now that they are moving again, that they are taking a serious note on that and then working on that. Now that it has become inevitable. So technology is developing like anything. And then fundamental literacy and numeracy is also another this thing, as far as that this thing is concerned. So NEP 20, that sweeping changes, as I said, that revamp higher education, emphasizing that liberal education, integrating all strata into one and providing that Meru culture, multidisciplinary education and research universities. Universities also they have bifurcated that research intensive university, education, the teaching intensive universities, and that degree colleges. Such kind of this thing that they have made in another that 15 years, if that NEP that is uniformly that adopted, that there is no affiliation system. Every college will become independent. They have their own curricula, they have their own this thing, taking that regional that aspiration into account and do the things. And then institutional restructuring, what I said, that phasing out of the fragmented college system. A college system, all higher education institutions to become autonomous and multidisciplinary by 2040. You see that the curriculum also the very flexible, entry and exit with academic credits that focus on skill development and experiential learning is going to be the order of the day. So just our neighbor country, Malaysia, I had visited a university where that 20 years and 65 years students that are attending the classes. So the lifelong learning, one can do such these things. Though another reform through NEP 2020 is that NRF, National Research Foundation, to foster the strong culture of research and innovation across universities, that they have made that elaborate arrangement. And it is not just that you are applying and getting the fund from India, even abroad. Through that NEP, they allowed that good universities from outside. It is not that we are encouraging that outer persons that come inside and then compete with our people, but to create healthy competitions so that our people also will develop in such a way, and where that good quality education is offered, our children that have the access to learn. Such a kind of that a broad that understanding at different levels, so has to keep that India's that knowledge level at its height. Then equity and inclusion, I mentioned 2-3 times that special education zones for disadvantaged this thing. Even that UGC started 30 years back, satellite towns and other this thing, backward areas and all these things, giving special this thing. Even University of Mysore, from where that I am talking, also that very backward that area, now it is a district that got that special this thing. Now it has become university. The UGC's that intention was to give that one university for every district. It was coined in 2000 years, 1998. Every district should have a university, keeping that GER into account. But unfortunately, that it has not been that carried out, because that lot of that money and all these things, I told you that only India can able to spend 0.65%, 64% that GDP towards higher education, these things, and the governance and regulations, that single regulatory systems, Higher Education Commission of India, this UGC, AICT, all the mentioned in earlier, all these things will go to ensure transparency and efficiency. Single window system like, so that all these things that is hassle free, and only education that this thing, that the quality this thing is maintained. Then separation of functions, regulations, accreditations, funding, and academic standard setting, and all these things are made so easy so that educational environment goes in a different way. So has to keep India at its height at the global level. So coming to that, the impact of NEP on society, that as I mentioned, lifelong learning and inclusivity. I told you, one can learn throughout the life. Such kind of this thing, multiple entry, multiple exit. When even before that introduction of that national education policy, I was vice chancellor 18 to 22. So many people failed, and then double the duration. 3 years degree means 6 years. 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, again fail. They used to approach through that politicians, through syndicate members, through other academic council members and influential people, give one more attempt and all these things. Now, national education policy unfurled and removed all these obstacles. One can take at the age of the 20, another can take at any time. This thing that even that subjects also is maintained. ABC it is called academic bank of credit, multiple entry, multiple exit. One can take that 40 credits. This thing can take certificates. One can take 80 this thing credits and take diploma. One can take 120 degree, 160 that this honors degree, and then master degree honors. Who does honors? That 1 year only, and then they can go for directly research. Such a kind of it is there in some of the Western countries, including America. Such kind of that revolutionary that measures suggested keeping that Indian youths are not inferior to anybody, and they can develop. They have good faculty in the sense that personality. They can develop disproportionately. What is mentioned in the Constitution? Constitution clearly says it shall be the duty of the government to provide all the facilities, amenities, and services to the people to develop according to their capacity. So we strongly believe that every individual has innate capacity. Everybody has potentiality. Only the thing is that opportunity is to be given to develop. Such opportunity, it shall be the duty of the government to give. That is what NEP clearly says. Okay? Greater access and gender inclusion. So male and female ratio I gave. Now that we are all happy that earlier when I was a student, in my class that we were 12, only 2-3 girls, remaining boys. Now that you see that 70%, 65% girls, only that a few boys. In some of the colleges, boys are minority, 3, 4, 5. Such a kind of situation. So it means that India is giving that enough encouragement for overall development. Inclusiveness is maintained. Not only that gender perspective, and also that other strata, all that social inclusion, this thing that is, if you give that the statistics, that SC, ST 40% increase, SC, ST 36%, minority 31% increase. Such a kind of that thing that we can see in the reports. And then bringing skill gaps and enhancing employability. Skilling for employability. That is the best thing. What that skill, that gap is there, that national skill, that commission is established. Through that, every college, even degree, that the basic degree, this thing that they have that access for that all that gadgets. Such kind of this thing, apprenticeship introduced in degree colleges, BA, BSc apprenticeship. Such a kind of revolutionary changes are taking place, and hope that if that NEP is implemented letter and spirit in all the places. Unfortunately, that education, as I said in the earlier this thing time, that it is it is in a concurrent list. State and center that they have different opinion, it's a problem. Or otherwise that it is easy to take that to its height. And then teacher shortage and implementation challenges. Teacher shortage, you are all experiencing. I am also in, especially in Karnataka. I think 15, 20 years back, that in some of the universities that appointments were made 10 years and all these things. Hardly the 1 year, 115 years almost old university that have hardly 30% of the teaching faculty on permanent positions. The remaining are ad hoc basis. You understand what kind of this thing that research and then research students also, not only research projects and other this thing, how it affects. That these are all the concern, and UGC has different programs through national education policy to fill the gap, to regularize the appointments of that the ad hoc this thing through strict mechanisms and maintain quality education. And then centralization versus decentralization, this thing on this thing. It's not just giving one this thing, decentralizing the whole this thing. NEP is such. It is light but tight. It is light but tight. So it appears to be very simple, but when you implement it, it is difficult, because NEP is responsible for fixing the responsibility for the principal as well as the P1. P1 also is responsible. Principal is also responsible in all that this thing, because it is not just curricula, even infrastructure, maintaining a congenial atmosphere, cleanliness, all sorts of this thing is clearly mentioned, so as to maintain quality education. And governance and leadership, with this thing also, administration and all these things, as well free, political interference, all these things are weeded out. Holistic education and skill development. Skill development, as I mentioned, that enough, that is, it's not just knowledge alone matters, other things also. Enhanced equity and access. Again, that giving more and more opportunities for the children through different that schemes, so that even the last person also is brought into that educational fold. Such kind of this thing. Promotion of Indian languages and culture. That NEP clearly says that early education should be in mother tongue. In our own that language one should learn. Afterwards, that let it be English, Hindi, or whatever this thing. And then global competitiveness. As I said, that it is not that just that you are spending your this thing in India, even that global competitiveness also. I told you in morning, that afternoon, that NASA, how many scientists are there, Indians, in MIT, Caltech College. Then you take that Harvard, you take any this thing, so many Indians are there. They are all that contributing a lot, that this thing in this. And then automatically when that the persons are well placed, understands better things and then get good job, automatically that their economic this thing that goes up. Automatically it goes up. And then tax they pay. Through tax that you can, they can develop that infrastructure and other this thing. Further it helps societal development. But I have given a rosy picture as how that that NEP is going to bring a revolutionary change at the national level. But in implementing this national education policy, it is not that easy. We have the Kashmir to Kanyakumari, length and breadth you see, north, east, south, in all these 8 this thing, including that northwest and all, that there is lot of disparities. The infrastructure and resource constraints are there. The digital divide, I told you, internet connectivity, only 25% that they get the remote places and all these things. Even in our place, I am in Bangalore now, that I am facing that problem. This thing, I have connected from that my this thing, such kind of this thing. So all these things should be evaded. That inadequate infrastructure is another this thing. Many schools, many colleges, classrooms, how many that laboratories are there, libraries are there, and then how many that chairs and all these things. You know that better than me. That we have to have that enough fund for infrastructural development. The policy goal, of course, is to give that 6% of the GDP. Our Indian GDP is 6.5. How can you spend 6%? This is a very aspirational, this is a challenge. How good you are in increasing your GDP, taking it to 10, 12, 13, and spending half of it to that education. So that education is everything. If you give good education, that so many problems will go. Crime rate will come down, and then unnecessary wasteful expenditure will come down. In all respect, I need not explain to you, because you are all learned teachers, that you can minimize to the extent possible through quality education and preparing seasoned personalities, seasoned students. And then teacher related challenges, again shortage of qualified teachers, especially in rural and tribal areas. There's another a problem. And then tribal and underprivileged areas, that I told you, that many people that if you post it, they bring all other this thing on medical ground, husband and wife working, all sorts of parents health issues, and all other this thing. This creates problem. In some colleges, more teachers. In some colleges, less teachers. In some colleges, no teacher. Such kind of things won't serve the purpose. This is another challenge in implementing that the NEP, because NEP multidisciplinary that approach, and then even the subjects where that you don't find. If any person wants to study psychology, psychology is not there in one college. Another college that where that psychology is that made available, they should provide opportunity to go to that college and learn. UGC has made that provision, even that up to 40% of the total that subjects you can take online. You need not attend classes. Such a kind of facilities is made available, provided students are eager to learn and come up in life. And then the capacity building is another this thing. Training the new pedagogies, and then digital tools, artificial intelligence, multilingual instructions. All these things are the challenges. Then our people, their resistance to change. Shifting from one role to another role is a challenge. they won't accept so easily. So online this thing, some people that they open and then go that side and that side. They listen here and there. I think how many of you are doing? I think that now our Nanjun Swami is very strict. He won't leave even that resource persons. How can he leave that the participants? I know that. Okay. This another this thing, and then technology and digital this thing, and then cyber security and privacy. When we are using that, we have access to all these things, and maintenance cost is not that easy. Maintaining that the technology infrastructure and all these things, India can able to that cater to this kind of needs or not is another question. And governance and administrative challenges, coordination between states and the center, I told you, it comes under concurrent list and all these things. Monitoring and evaluation is another challenge. Lack of robust system and measures of NEP programs across that thousands of that the colleges is not that easy. There are 16,000 colleges. And then policy awareness. Many grassroots level stakeholders, teachers, parents, local leaders are not fully aware of NEP provisions. That's another this thing. How good you are in that educating them to cater to the needs of these people is another this thing. And then dropout rate, that we have to bring it down. And then girl students especially leave that education in between. How is that you are going to bridge this gap? And then parental mindset, how you are going to change this one multidisciplinary approach, that a science person takes that liberal arts subject, history, economics, political science person takes that mathematics. Parents are afraid he may fail. And then science person, biotechnology, physics, and then sociology. They are afraid. What is that you are going to do with sociology? So parents' mindset has to be changed. How important sociology is. It is not just that your knowledge in the technical this thing, how to live in society, how to this thing, lead your life, family, individually, in society, how you should behave yourself like that. Equity issues, ensuring inclusion of all these things, SC, ST, OBC, differently abled, minority, and then transgenders. And then again, it is a challenge. How is that you are going to include all these things? And then the specific issue, if you come, that autonomy versus regulations, balancing institutional autonomy with accountability in accreditation and funding. Because NEP says that you are at liberty to form your own that curricula and then charge your own money and then use whatever that comes to your mind which is good for your reason. So such kind of this thing, how good you are, how accountable you are, how honest you are, how transparent you are, this is the question. NEP says that you take that local talent into account and suggest them to work freely. Even that any students wants to learn that embroidery, that take that local that women and ask her to contribute for the school, college, like that. How good that the principal is in going to that skilled lady and approaching her and then persuading her and bringing it to the college and giving training to the like-minded that students like. And then research funding, NRF, I told you that vision that of course is strong, but how good it is in catering to the needs of all, how that government is going to do and all these things. Again, that faculty recruitment, shortage of that research, that amount, and then faculty in multidisciplinary universities, that how good this thing. They say that I am teaching sociology means only sociology. I am teaching economics means only economics. Economics teacher Why can't he teach that the political science? Political science teacher, why can't he teach that the physics? Such a kind of situation should come. That is what that national education policy that aspire. That equity and inclusion, and that target expansion, gender balance, it is the government action, technology outbreak, and then inclusion, equity, promise of diversity. All these things are another this thing. The institutional autonomy speaks of institutional autonomy speaks of including that curricula, language, infrastructure, sensitization, that technology outbreak, all sorts of things, how good they are in this thing. And then digital learning initiatives is another challenge. I told you already that government that NEP is pushing digital education with the UGC mandating universities to after I told you up to 40% of this one through online platform, Swayam and other this thing. And then significant hurdles in these are that initiatives face that major challenges, low completion rates, that even that Swayam this thing, certificates and all these things. How is that they are going to address all these things? And then digital divide, and then faculty upgradation, that all teachers are not that good in digital this thing, because only new teachers you can train up. What about that the others? Those who are professors, those who are that at the verge of retirement, those who have already that completed and 5 years, 3 years, they give reason. Though only 3 years service, why should I learn all such things? Such a kind of this thing. How is that you are going to break this rigidity? How is that you are going to persuade? How is that you are going to create that a congenial that environment so that they join hands with the changing circumstances? And then digital transformation is another this thing. And internationalization, I already told you that internationalization is not an easy joke, that you are inviting someone and you are allowed to go outside. Such a kind of that the strategy that the NEP has suggested, so that uniformity is maintained at the global level. Only that the intention is so that our students that compete at the global level. It is facilitates the students' mobility at different places. And then branch campuses is another this thing. The expansion of international branches. You know that the students who study 1 year here, they go tune-in program. Other year that study there, their students comes here and study. Such kind of that exchange that really helps in understanding subjects better, world better, so that world will become a global village like, provided that all that the situational this thing that is made available to the needy. Artificial intelligence transforming higher education now. Now that everybody is worrying. So when that artificial intelligence is in a position to suggest everything, then what is our role? It suggests. Even teachers need not be there in the classroom. Artificial intelligence, they suggest to the students how to go about. What are the things comes? Personalized learning, adapting to students' needs. All that artificial intelligence platform, a tailor-made this thing like to individual learning styles effectively. It is like that ready-made shirt, like such a kind of this thing. Artificial intelligence as a catalyst for future-ready education. It is the innovations, promotes inclusive and institutional effectiveness. It predicts what kind of this thing. If you start this subject, students will come. If you go to that place, students will come more. Such kind of that direction it gives. Immense virtual labs and simulations. I told you, virtual lab. That artificial intelligence powered environments provide experiential learning opportunities. That it gives learning opportunities on the job training like that artificial intelligence analyzes performance to recommend resources. Data driven that insights help students that access a categorized learning materials. So you need not worry. Now that we are depending upon Google and other this thing, that artificial intelligence, if you say that is the thing, if you ask that which college is better in US, that in no time that they sell that this is the college, this is the situation, this is the rate, all these things. Automation of administrative tasks. Again, that admissions, grading, and scheduling are that streamlined by artificial systems. You need not worry for any other this thing. You go to that person, this person, you wait. He has gone for tea. He has applied leave. All such things will not be there. That accelerated research through artificial intelligence tools is another that milestone in this thing. So this 21st century skills is more that attractive and more relevant. Learning skills, critical thinking, creative, collaboration, communications matters much. And then literacy skills also, information literacy, media, and then media literacy, technology literacy. It is not just that you know that reading, writing, and numeracy. Even information, how to collect that information, that media, how to project yourself, how to encash your this thing, and that technology literacy, again that all sorts of this thing, digital this thing, that life skills very important, study skills, professional skills, all these things, adaptability, problem solving, emotional intelligence, reasoning, self-direction. You see that? I'm just giving these tips, how it matters. But if you go to that, this thing, it speaks differently as how that difficult it is. Really, friends, all this is in the hands of the teachers. Idu, the dual impact of that artificial intelligence, that automations are reshaping the workforce by both displacing jobs and creating new roles. You see that how that is the automation and all these things, rationalization. We used to talk that in HR and all these things. That artificial intelligence is going another mile ahead of that. Shift in skills. One skill is not enough. Just a repetitive this thing that won't help. That uniquely human skills that are it is not that artificial intelligence replace it, but artificial intelligence matters much. How good you are in managing that. This includes the critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, and human judgment. All these things matters much in this respect. How that artificial intelligence you manage that matters. This is like that pilot versus passenger risk. Pilot versus passengers. You see, over reliance on artificial intelligence can erode cognitive abilities, making it critical for education to foster that independent thought and critical evaluation. Artificial intelligence, if you go, but person has its own way of doing the things that matters. That is what that national education policy is clearly envisaged. You produce a well-built, well-managed, emotionally balanced, maintained equilibrium and maintained ethical standard and spiritual quotient and mental that power transforms. That matters much, this thing. And then interdisciplinary programs also. It helps students solve the complex and multifaceted problems that cross traditional academic boundaries. Technology enhanced learning, artificial intelligence, power tools, and hybrid learning models can personalize education, but they must be implemented carefully to avoid exacerbating the digital divide. As I said, that lifelong learning, that rapid pace of change necessitates the commitment to continue that learning beyond a single degree. It is not a one degree that one can learn lifelong. That's why I say learning is a continuous process. There is no end in itself. The future education in India, it is equity and inclusion. There is continued the focus on increased enrollment for disadvantaged groups, that promoting gender equity and multilingual education. That trend which is going to emerge in future will be shaped by blended learning, artificial intelligence driven classrooms, and a skill based curriculum. Then global ambition is that India aims to become a global knowledge hub by 2040 with key institutions already that improving their international ranking. You know that in top that 200 globally rated that educational institutions, India only 4: IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, IIT Roorkee, and Delhi University. Only 4 universities. Not that much mistake. Friends, that to conclude, education is not preparation for life. Life itself is, it is life itself. Education is not preparation for life. It is life itself. Just you understand, just by giving 1 minute this thing to hit, and you will realize how important the education is in maintaining a quality life. And you are the teachers, your that role in shaping the society for future readiness to face any situation in this competitive world, our students. With this